6:31 by this clock and by my computer. And look for public comments, which I see no one to offer public comments. And so we'll go right into the finance report. I should have said first that this is the January 5th, 2022 meeting of the North Bennington Prudential Committee. We're holding this off schedule in order because to facilitate several other meetings that will be held to construct the district's budget. And the thinking was that we would get some just regular business out of the way and then continue the meeting to next week at the same time and the week after if necessary, and to a final meeting to actually approve the warning for the annual meeting. And so finance. Mary, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Ray. The agenda was set out before the end of December, so I didn't have the ability to produce a treasurer's report until just the other day, but that was sent to all of you. You'll note on that the tax anticipation note, that line of credit, was paid off at the beginning of December, just to ameliorate 1 month's worth of interest on that. So the interest, we had borrowed $327,000 from that note, and the interest on that was $1,284.27. So that is now concluded, and I will send Alice the signed documentation from the bank once that is available, and I expect to receive that at any time. The only other thing I wanted to mention, Ray, is that there will be at least only one that I know of now, request for a tax abatement.
Yes.
In February. So I've only done this once ever in my life. It was so long ago that I don't even remember much about it, but right. I believe that is for you to schedule.
Yes, we have to schedule it. And since we're at this point, then you bring the point up, I guess it would be appropriate for the board to decide on a date. Do you want to do it as a sort of prologue to our February meeting, which would be, you have a calendar for February, which would be the 9th. They would be our standard meeting. If it's possible, we could do that hearing prior to the meeting, say at 6 o'clock or a little earlier, if that's deemed to be necessary to hear the case provided by the
I think that a 5:30 meeting on the 9th would make sense.
I am not available that day.
Oh, that's not good.
No.
Okay. So
I will be in flight, and I am not available between the 9th and the 16th.
Okay.
Okay. So if we want you, we should maybe schedule it for the 2nd of February.
We could certainly do that.
We could do it as a hearing, and then I don't know if that will work for Jim Kosis getting our warrants and so forth together. But
Ray, what's involved particularly in that? It's just hearing the case, the hardship, and making a decision as a board.
Right. We would have to deliberate on it.
Ray, how do you do this on Zoom if you are not able to see documents? Because I have requested.
That's a really good question. I suppose that we will have to ask for submission that can be distributed to the board.
I don't believe I'm available February 2nd, so if we're doing a Zoom meeting on that day, we'd have to think, I mean, you don't
Okay,
have
so-
to do a Zoom meeting, you could do a physical meeting if that works better for
Yeah.
documents, but I wouldn't be able to host the Zoom meeting that
Right.
on the
Do
2nd.
you, would, Jim, do you think you would want to be at a tax abatement hearing?
No, I don't think I need to be at that.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Ray, I could schedule a meeting because I have an account from the village.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, so we could.
but
do
Amy would
this-
have to still, Amy Goslin would still have to warn it. I just wouldn't be
Yes.
able to, but if
Yeah.
But if,
right.
Mary, if you scheduled it and gave the link to me or to Amy Goslin, she could add the link into the meeting warning and agenda.
Okay. So
We go the
help me
second.
understand, because like I say, I've done this only once and I don't really know the history of it. But pardon me, in this case, the person requesting the abatement only owes education tax. But in the event that it was a taxpayer that had both village tax and education tax, why is it warned through the school through as an education matter? Maybe Lori knows the history of
Well,
why.
I can't,
it's done that way.
this board can't abate, can only abate the school taxes,
Oh, okay.
right?
Right. There has been times in the past where I believe it was a mutual, both village and school. And I think we actually met maybe as a joint board meeting.
I think
Okay.
we could do that. We have done that, I believe, on one case, like so long in the past, I do not recall what was going on, but and that would be appropriate if there are village taxes involved. If this is
No,
just,
there aren't this year.
okay.
I'm just curious as to how the whole setup
But
is this way.
so
Right.
Mary, so here's my question. So Matthew, you're correct in what has happened in the past. Mary, my question to you is, she lives in the town of Shasberry and there is
Correct.
nothing due in Shasberry? There's nothing due to Shasberry?
As far as I know, no.
Okay, because if there is, you have to alert Marlene
Yes.
of that situation, so.
No, because the issue was that this homeowner, this taxpayer, did not file for a prebate. So had always expected to pay municipal tax, but had not expected to pay the full amount of the education tax.
Okay. That's the issue.
But
And so,
that's a simple meeting, I think, on the 2nd.
okay, now the
Yeah.
taxpayer is not going to be part of this meeting, but the taxpayer has a representative who
Correct.
will. And we had requested of the taxpayer and the representative to bring 2 years worth of federal and state income taxes. I'm not quite certain that those are documents that if they were mine, I wouldn't want them copied and just handed out willy-nilly, but I
No.
wouldn't mind bringing them to a physical meeting to be viewed and discussed.
Right.
So the representative can bring those to the meeting.
Okay,
They don't need to be, disseminated to the.
right.
to the
So
board.
if I were to host this, I could actually, through Zoom, I would actually be at the depot at whatever time you set up. And
Yes.
whomever else is on this abatement committee or board could also choose to join there.
Mary, does it require more than, does it require 3 of the board or?
I would
Required-
defer to Lori on that one. Like I say, it's only been once, and I believe it has to be a majority of your abatement board.
Right.
Yeah, it does. And so the Prudential Committee is the abatement board for the
Okay.
school district. So
Yeah.
Matthew, yes.
So three of us need to be there.
Three of you and I will take minutes and the treasurer needs to be there.
Let's schedule it for the 2nd of February. I'll probably be out of town, but I'll be there. If it's, what do you want to do?
Virtually you'll be there. Okay.
6? No, you're right. 6 o'clock or 5:30?
5:30 worked well for me.
5:30, February 2nd.
And this would be at the village offices
Yes,
for physical location.
Yep.
And you would conduct a Zoom?
I
meeting?
will.
Okay.
And then Ray, you said you were going to ask Jim if he could get this together to be a February meeting. Is that correct?
No, we've just switched from the 9th to the 2nd.
So,
And
so that would.
we're not piggybacking the regular meeting on that. I
Okay.
think.
Okay,
Just doing it separately.
okay,
Mary's gonna set it up and send it to the SU so she can warn it as a school
Right.
issue. And then,
And Jim, did you say I should send this to anyone other than Amy and this board?
First I said me, but if you have Amy Goslin's email, send it directly to her. I just
do.
sent her an email saying I let her aware of the date.
Thank you.
Right. And you would provide, Mary would provide the Zoom code.
The Zoom link and the location. Yep.
Yes.
Right.
And now my last question is, and this may be a Lori question, how do we alert? What is the proper method for alerting the taxpayer? Do we send a letter? Shall I do that?
I think
I don't-
we do.
you have to warn the
normal
meeting.
Normal warning and post it at the village offices and around town and in the newspaper.
is it a public meeting?
It's a public meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about taxes. It's one of the most public things possible
Okay,
in terms of local affairs. So yes, it has to be open. However, we can deliberate in
executive.
executive session. Now, I would not expect taxpayers to be showing up, but they may, and we give them warning so that they may do so.
Sounds good.
All
All
right.
right, thank
so,
you.
Mary, you're going to work on setting that up, and we'll all see what you set up and that it's gotten to Amy and gets warned. And locally, we'll post where we have to post. Okay. So February 2nd, 5:30 in the evening at the village offices at the train station in North Bennington.
So now what I would suggest is we need to make sure that there's enough time to post the meeting according
Right.
to the abatement rules, because today's January 5th.
All right. So,
And I don't know exactly how many days that are
yeah,
required.
I don't.
That was going to
I
be
don't
my
remember.
question. Yeah.
but
So it's
a good
I-
different than
I
warning
haven't-
for a regular meeting then.
Yeah,
I will check my little 14-page all about abatement book and see if there's anything in there that it mentions.
right. I'll look at the abatement aspect in the Vermont Education Statutes book and see if there's anything, and I'll communicate with you and the rest of the board about that.
Okay,
And I think we have plenty of time right now, but I hope, I just don't remember the process so well. Okay, any further work for you to talk about under finance, Mary?
no, thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate that. We have the consent agenda, which consists of minutes from the December 8th meeting and a warrant that has a payment to Lori for minutes and a payment to the village school for January of 2022. And well, I totally lost my computer again. So that totals in the range of $171,000 total between the two. Actually, a little less. And I don't have the specific sum in front of me. So I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes and warrants.
No motion.
I'll second.
All right. Any comments or discussion? Seeing no offer. I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Great. Did I hear Kiernan?
Aye.
Kiernan, are you there?
He said aye.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear him. So thank you. So we have some policies to warn. Number 5145 is condom availability, and 5140 anaphylaxis, both to be warned. Kiernan, do you want to speak to the word changes that are occurring in these policies?
Yeah, so in terms of the policy 5145, which is the condom availability, the ALE just essentially changed secondary education listed from 7 to 12 as opposed to what it was previously was 9 to 12. So that's the only change that was made for that policy. And for the anaphylaxis for 5140, there was no changes to the administrative admin regs. It was just updating procedures to reflect the updated info from the ALE.
Just see they reflected what? Excuse me.
Just to reflect updated info.
Okay.
No major changes.
So I guess we'll warn them individually. So for policy 5145 condom availability.
Move to warn.
Okay, thank you. We have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For policy 5140 anaphylaxis.
Move to
Oh.
warn.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we move on to the superintendent's report, and we have Renee here, and we have Jim, and we have Laura. We could hear from all of you, but
Not a lengthy report. This is our first week back, and we have, had some struggles with making sure that all our schools can be open, staffing issues, as well as a couple of schools getting close to the 50% attendance. So our fingers are crossed. Changes in quarantining requirements. You might have seen that from the CDC, which now adopted by the Vermont Department of Health, which is impacting. We've sent that message out to families twice now, because as the guidance keeps continuously changing as far as quarantine, it's down to 5 days unless you continue to have symptoms at the end of 5 days, as opposed to the 10. Not really sure how that's going to work out for us, but again, I can't thank our nurses enough for what they're dealing with in all our schools, and including our COVID-19 coordinator, Ashley Walker, who I'm indebted to for all the work that she does for us. budgets, as you can guess, is dominating the work of Renee and other administrators as we hold meetings to see, where we can go with this. Tomorrow night will be the MAU budget meeting. And we will have the Union Elementary Board meeting on their budget next Tuesday, all to the goal to get this all wrapped up, in time for the earliest of town meetings that it can be. And that's really what's been dominating our time this week. And I'm here to answer any questions, but sorry I couldn't physically be with you tonight, but thank you to Laura and Renee for standing in for me so you can host your meeting.
Thank you for appearing. And so the policy now is a test to stay policy that for the schools themselves, for kids who've been exposed.
They can opt to it. We can't force them to test to stay. But that is an option available to people who are unvaccinated.
Right.
So it's just even more, confusing.
Yeah. Okay.
We're understanding that I did hear today the hospital is shifting how they're going to offer testing. It's only going to be, there won't be any more appointments starting Friday. It'll be just drive up. So, first come, first serve. So I'm concerned that, people may just stop testing. And I said, our goal is to keep schools open. And, I got a lot of questions from parents, but why aren't we going remote like we did last year? And the answer is simple. We're not allowed to. Under the state of emergency, and Vermont does not have a state of emergency anymore.
Right.
So remote learning is not an option to our schools at this time. The days would simply not count and we would have to make them up.
Right. And the fact that you have some schools that are close to dropping under 50%, that's troubling. But
Yeah.
not surprising, I suppose.
Yeah, we did one yesterday. I'd rather not say what school it is. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, you don't have to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But with staffing's an issue. There's not enough substance. We're like any other business out there. There's not enough workers, and we still have open positions not filled, and we have, being a substitute teacher was not a great job in the best of times, and even though we've raised our rates twice and done some very creative recruiting, we've brought some in, but nowhere near the number that we would need on a daily basis.
Right. So we've made a good faith effort at the SVSU, thanks to Nick and Jim and others who are involved in formulating that approach. But it's boosted our numbers, but not enough.
No.
Yeah. And especially given the amount of sick time that's being activated in this period of time.
Yeah. We have staff members who, particularly newer staff members or support staff. One of the things we're dealing with today that, they're going to run out of sick time from time that they're required to quarantine. And we have some who are now on, you have to take, it says unpaid time off because they're out of benefit time. They've had to quarantine, multiple times. So that's really impacting some people hard.
It stresses on everybody.
Yeah. And I've said this before. So I think this is the worst year. Because I think we thought when the school year ended last year that we had caught a break. Here comes the vaccine and everything's going to be,
Right.
going to be vaccinated and things are going to be better. And here is, it's the third school year. We're coming up on a 2-year anniversary of when we first went down into lockdown. And this is the third school year impacted. But, our teachers are been phenomenal. The association has been really willing to work with us as we try to work through this. So everyone's feeling it, everyone. But I keep looking at my phone in the morning. I look at the numbers and see how many people are out, and I hope we can get through today. And our principals, vice principal staff, everyone's filling in, and there are some days that I don't know how they want to come into the building in the morning knowing what, anything that they thought that they might be doing is plans are going out the window because they're scrambling to get coverage. Because
Yep.
people are either sick or required to quarantine.
Yep. I'm appreciative of the effort you and and staff everywhere has put in. And it's sad what's happening to kids under this regime.
Can't underestimate what is being
COVID.
lost.
Sorry, what?
The,
You can't underestimate what is being lost or how different the school
Yes.
experience it is for students.
Right.
But I think there's some great work going on with our recovery. Laura and Melissa Senecal have been spearheading that for us. And I think there's tremendous progress and great prospects for going forward as, and not just for our students, but like what's been put together for the health and wellness of our staff, because we realize, we have to keep our staff healthy so that we can continue. So all the different offerings through our health and wellness programs for our staff, I think it's just something that we did before, but on such a small way, it just really has expanded, and the participation has been wonderful. And I think, the feedback has been good. We got to do more, but at least we acknowledge it. I'm good unless Laura wants to add anything particularly.
Yeah, well, I was gonna offer the opportunity to just speak to that a little bit.
No, I was just gonna, and then I think I would just touch upon, what we've shared at the other board meetings, that we're spending this second part of the school year highlighting the 3 pillars of recovery. The first is the foundation, which is the social, emotional health and wellness of our students and our staff. And so that's the board meetings that we've reported out at recently. And we've highlighted, we've shared a little bit of the social emotional data, because that's one piece of data we collect 3 times a year. We measure the internalizing feelings of our students, and then the externalizing feelings, like the things that you can see. Internalizing would be students that we think are exhibiting some anxiety, and then we triage. So when we see areas of need, we use that data to put in some interventions. And one thing we've highlighted is the use of ESSER money to support positions we never thought we'd need before. Some examples would be, we have 4 family engagement specialists. One thing we learned from our community is we want to make sure that families are connecting with schools. And so we have family engagement specialists that can actually go out and meet families where they're at, and then connect back to the school and connect them with community resources. So that's been huge, because we can also send them in teams. We have a art therapist. Never knew we needed an art therapist. And that art therapist is attached to our guidance counselors and our clinician, and is just for some kids, because not something, you need a bag of tricks because every child is different. So the art therapist is able to provide services to students that need therapy in that format. We have, and this is the one Kay Abbott's not here. Our BCBAs, our behavior
Board certified behavior analysts.
Yes, thank you, Renee. And they are able to help us with students really identify and get at the root of why we're seeing some of the behaviors we're seeing, so that then we can create a plan for intervention. And so that's just some examples of some of the roles that we've added just under that first pillar of behavior and social emotional learning, just along with then providing professional learning for all teachers in restorative practices like circling, and making sure that using circling not only for kids, but for staff. And then we continue to annually offer trauma-informed practice training for teachers. So again, just some examples of things that we've built in as we listen to our community of of families and community members last year. And it's a work in progress and it's always evolving and it's going to take many, many years. So next month, we'll be reporting out on which is actually this month, which is January, we're reporting out on student engagement and truancy. And then in February, that's when we'll report out on the third pillar of recovery, which is academic achievement. So, a little snippet. Lots of good work by lots of good people.
Right. All right. And I guess Renee is going to speak a little bit to our,
Am I?
well, you can talk a little bit about the budget that you sent us
Sure.
and note that it's going to be modified considerably.
Okay. So yeah, I did send a very preliminary draft one out to the board. Clearly we need to, or Ray and I need to connect on what our student counts are going to be next year so we can adjust those in the budget. I was actually just working on updating the assessments based
Okay.
on the meeting that we just had with the SVSU board. As you all know, Ray's been working to have these assessments kind of reevaluated and kind of equalized, right? So we're looking at students, not just kind of averaging everything out, but actually, having them based on the actual pupils that are receiving services. So the board did vote in favor of both of the proposals. So I was updating that. So there'll be some variations from the version that I've already sent out to you. And just a couple other things to quickly note. We did get the tax recommendation for the tax commissioner recommendation for the property yield. He gave us two variations. One would be if the full anticipated $90 million surplus in the ed fund, if that's applied back to educational costs, they've recommended that property yield be $13,846. So that's a significant increase as to what we've seen in prior years. The version that I gave you went with a slightly more conservative approach with the yield of 12,937. And he notes that the first scenario assumes that the $90 million is allocated. The scenario B assumes that those funds are not applied. So legislative session just began. We don't know what's going to happen, but so that's what's in that version. And then also the data that we got from the tax department on the common level of appraisals. We're seeing actually a significant drop across the board, at least in all of our towns within the SU. But thankfully, that's potentially going to be offset by the increase in the property yield. So I think the forecasted tax impact will be favorable for next year, but we still have a lot of work to do. So,
Right. We don't need to do a happy dance yet.
yeah, and Mount Anthony's numbers, Mount Anthony meets tomorrow, so they haven't even looked at draft one of their budget yet. So,
Okay. And I talked with Renee and I don't think there's anything for me to do on this budget yet, except look at it. And then I have asked her for the AOE's, their calculation spread on the equalized pupil count. And, you just provided the tax spread. And I suppose we could talk to our legislators about how they want to apply that $90 million, because it seems to me that it wants to be spread a little bit over several years, because we're going to have a hard landing otherwise. Everybody is, not just us. And we need to do some research on what our numbers look like to confirm or modify what estimates Renee has in our budget. And I have not compiled a list of what I think should be, but because I was anticipating mostly that we could not really work very hard on the budget at the moment until some more data comes in. If you have anything else to add to that?
No, I guess the only other thing I would add is I know that our auditors are working, feverishly to get our FY21 audits done. But it does look like we'll have a small increase in fund balance going in. So that's also favorable.
You're talking about our fund balance.
Correct, North Bennington.
Okay. Yep, well, that would be helpful. But you know what that is or looks like if there's no change to it now because you've done the work. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why you know there's this.
Unless,
favorable increase.
so we have many moving parts in our office, so we know if there's any journal entries, that's happening between Mary and Alice, and it all kind of ends up filtering to me. But yeah, looks like a $10,000 increase in fund balance.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I listed a bunch of items here under the chair's report, and the purpose of doing that was because we will do a continuation to the 12th and then to the 19th for budget. And I wanted to have items there represented that we will be talking about, if not tonight, in those continuation meetings. So the SVSU budget, well, you could speak to that quickly about general. I mean, I would say about the SVSU budget, the overall increase is 2.32%, and that's before any revenue is considered and any surplus funds are applied. Those get applied in the assessment process, and the revenue is generated in the budget process from the assessments and from those funds and funds that you expect to see from the state.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, with the new shift in special education funding, Act 173,
Right.
they've shifted to a census model for the block grant. So we've got the preliminary numbers from the agency. So I worked that in, allocated those out by district and applied those. So that's what we saw when we were reviewing assessments in the previous meeting. That's all been factored
Right.
in.
And you did mention that there was a considerable increase in funding in our global budget that you're going to see at the SU level.
About $500,000.
Yeah. For special education.
Correct.
And that's just the K6, K12
12, right.
group.
Triple
I
is
don't know
not-
about triple.
Not included in Act 173. It's not included in the
Yeah.
census block.
Okay. Anything else to say?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. So our budget, Renee has spoken to that, and you can look at the budget that was sent out to you. And the tax tab is alive. That's current information that shows
Is it
the impacts
easier if I
roughly.
send it out in PDF form versus the Excel file? I don't know what's easier for folks to actually look at.
Any
I can-
thoughts on that?
Turn them into PDFs if
PDFs would we be able to, we would not have, I would not be able to look at
Manipulate.
those, would it still have the highlights to where you can see what the basis is?
Mhm.
Those
I
little
can have it display.
triangular connections.
I can do that.
Okay,
So I'll plan to send out just an updated version of draft one, so you can see what the assessment changes are.
yep, thank you.
I'll do that in a PDF form with the comments showing,
Okay,
and then also the equalized people data from agency.
right. Great, thank you. Item C, village school report and tuition request, that's going to be later in this process. Annual report letter, dedications and review draft. Review draft of what? Not sure what I meant there. So I haven't written a letter. I will be thinking about that and I will consult you all. I'll send you a draft of it and you can mark it up. Dedications, I have received some material from persons who wanted to speak to Gene McWater's impact. And also we had Maria Scully, our former board member, wrote something for David Monks and Rachel Schumacher, who passed away this past year as well, and had connections to the village school and the community in general. Since I am going to receive several different thoughts about Gene McWater's, I probably will be editing them and putting them into a format of some sort, and I'll work with Amanda in the operations office to put that together into our annual report. If you have any thoughts about what I should say in the letter, the usual letter from the board chair or the board as a whole to the community, please let me know. Or you can wait till I send you a draft and then you can let me know. Annual meeting warning and Australia ballot preparation.
I'm sorry, Ray, may I just interrupt for one moment? I had thought of someone else that we may possibly want to remember. Should I send that in an email so I don't have to?
Yeah,
Public-
do that, please.
Okay,
Do
all
that.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
The annual meeting warning has to be by what date?
We have to have them posted no earlier than January 20th, no later than January 30th.
That's our windows, okay. And the ballot, Lori, when do you need to be able to send that out?
So I need to send that out as soon as I have the warning.
Yeah.
And the petitions are due on the 24th for whoever's running. And I need to hear back from, I hope by next week I will know if we are going to be mailing ballots to all voters in North Bennington and Shasbury ID1 again. I think that's likely going to be the case for us because of our space issues.
Okay.
And the same thing with the Zoom. More than likely, it'll be a Zoom meeting, the annual meeting. Again, there's not a space that we have that we're able to use. But I don't know the answers to that until next week.
Okay. So,
That's just been brought up this week in the legislature again, so.
right. Well, we can't warn before the 20th, so you can't send off for your balloting before the 20th.
Anyway, well, I need the warning, I need all of that anyway, so.
Yes, right. So.
I don't want to post it on the 30th. I want it before that.
Yeah, no.
Please.
We have meetings. We will be doing a continuance to the 19th. And if everything is copacetic, we've got everything assembled, we could do a warning at that point. And then on the 20th, we'll have to have a meeting on the 20th to do a warning. So we'll have to maybe we'll continue to the 20th to do that if it's possible to.
Yeah, I mean,
compress
I'll
that.
check statute though, because I don't know I think you can take action on it, but I think the posting has to happen. I don't
On
know.
the-
I'll
on the 20th.
review, yeah,
Okay.
just to be sure what.
Yeah, well, that would be useful because, we were just sticking them on Wednesdays because that was consistent with our normal meeting.
Yeah, no, if we can have it ready and you guys can take action on it and sign it and we
On
can
the
get it to
19th,
Lori
yes.
the next day.
Okay,
Yep, sure.
all right. And how do we decide the mailing of ballots, Lori?
So that's a decision that's being made by the legislature.
Okay,
Currently, it's being brought up this week. So our issue is that we don't have a space that's large enough to do it. We are not allowed in the school
yeah,
to do that.
right.
The firehouse is not acceptable either, neither is the depot. So, yeah, so I'm waiting to hear.
And that rides right into the question of the annual meeting
Correct.
and how we do that.
Right, that's correct.
Because we would need, I assume we're going to need a space to have at least a physical presence in case people want to show up and say something. But I don't know where that would be. I don't think it would have to be very large because I think the whole idea will discourage people from coming out. To me, it seems like it might be possible just to have that physical presence at the depot but if too many people show up, what do we do? So I'm not sure.
Ray, I think that's a pretty good idea,
Yeah.
if we're not being
I
required.
doubt, it strikes me that people are going to be circumspect, at least in our community, about showing up for the meeting because of our current COVID situation. And I think if I sit in the depot and everybody's on Zoom and we put the code out there, we'll have as many people as we're likely to have in person, I would think.
And, Ray, I don't disagree with you at all. However, that's not the way I believe it's going to work, because what if you do have more than 10 people show up? Then what are you going to do?
So
Go
I'd
out
have to have a
sidewalk?
plan for that, yeah.
You have to have a plan for that. There's not a space that we have that's large enough that I can think of in the village, except for the school, and we're not allowed in the school. And that's not going to change between now and then.
Could we talk to Bennington
Firehouse.
College? Does
Firehouse,
it have to
well-
be in?
No, the firehouse won't work, Matt.
Okay,
Is say VAPA in North Bennington? I believe it is.
barely.
So could we ask for access to that as a physical place?
Not if they're in school in session and if they are following their own protocols.
Well,
Right,
of
it
course,
won't-
this would be on Saturday.
No,
Saturday, what? When's the vote? Is it actually
It's the first.
first?
Yeah,
Right, so it
So
would
you'll
be
be
the
meeting
26th, February 26th.
that's the earliest I remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
They might not be in session then. I don't know, but I don't think that's a great idea. I really don't.
you don't think that's a great idea?
No,
I'm not looking for a great idea. I'm just looking
Well,
for
I
an
don't
idea
think-
that'll work.
No, but I don't think they'll allow that anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
the protocols have tightened back up again.
Well, but they are not in session.
Yeah,
At that
I don't
point in
know,
time.
but why don't, so we're continuing this meeting till the 12th.
Right.
So let me work really hard at pressuring people to give me an answer before then so that I can,
You're talking about the
Which people?
State Secretary of State's office.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that they can let me know what they're going to allow.
Is there any other space? I mean, perhaps we could use the carriage house at Park McCullough.
I was gonna ask, does it have to be a public building? What about the old Tyco building? And I don't know if anybody, that's probably a big enough space, I would imagine, with a warehouse.
Where's that?
It's right on Water Street, right by
Oh,
the cheese factory.
right. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility.
I mean, if we're looking for something that has a lot of space, I don't know if they have like a warehouse or anything there, because I know the warehouse shipping was taken over by Maplebrook.
And we
Right.
rent some space from there too, right, Lori?
Yeah, we do rent space there and some other people do as well. So I don't know what's
Broken up.
left, Kieran, but that's not a bad idea.
I'm just thinking of a big building that might possibly, fit more than 10 people. Worst
What was
case.
what was the other suggestion I heard just before that?
VAPA,
No, there was something else.
The carriage house?
Carriage Barn.
Park McCullough.
The Park
Yes.
McCullough Carriage House.
I think that's perfect.
So, so I need someone who wants to take on checking some of these things out. I'd like some help on that. I could talk to Chris about the carriage barn. I think.
Is the notion that if we can do this, then we don't have to do the ballot?
No, it
No,
is not. I
that's
think the
for the
ballot,
meeting, yeah.
it's
Sorry.
just to meet our annual meeting, open meeting requirements.
Right.
And,
I mean, I was just gonna say the village, I was talking to the chair of the board of the Village of North Bennington last night, and we discussed the possibility of doing what we did last year, which is to move the meeting to the spring, but that's not an option that the school
the
has. I don't-
school does not have that option. The village
Exactly.
does.
Because once again, the Village of North Bennington Board of Trustees are in the same situation
Yes.
with
And
their.
last year, they actually met outside in the little park across from the skate park.
Right, but we met in May instead of in March.
Yes, that's right.
We had a lot-
Didn't do it in March, right?
Right,
But we aren't, I don't think we have the option of doing that, given state law
Okay.
and our charter.
So it seems that there still has to be a vote on budgets that have to
Yes.
happen by ballot, whether they're mailed or in
Right.
the train station, but has that been decided that definitely from the state level that that's what you have to do, or can we still do voting?
no, so that's what I've been talking about, Matt.
I know.
It's in the legislator, it's there now, and they're discussing it.
Okay, so we
So
don't know.
we don't really have an answer yet.
Okay.
So hopefully I can put a little pressure on them to get an answer before next Wednesday, the 12th, when we meet again.
Yeah.
That would be helpful to know.
Okay,
I think
Um,
from a school standpoint, it still makes sense to look into the Park McCullough.
yes, I will follow up on that. If Kiernan might talk to you know a party that's involved with the space you're talking about, Kiernan, can you speak to them?
I mean, I know Sarah Crozier, and they used to practice over there for roller derby. I can see if she knows of
okay.
anybody that
Yep.
would be a contact for there. And go from that route.
Right.
but
Right.
I'm not familiar with who owns the building.
Well, yeah, if you could follow up to the point of at least getting that contact in case we, yeah, I think the carriage barn is a better option myself. But
If it works.
if it's not available, then, that's,
Ray, would you want me to take care of asking about the carriage house?
yeah, if you would.
Sure.
You've got the date. It would have to be the 26th, Saturday, the 26th, at 9 o'clock in the morning. And, basically it's an hour.
Okay.
There's maybe a little setup before.
We
I
would,
don't
we
know
would,
what state it is in. Normally, I guess you'd have to get, there are chairs somewhere you have to pull out, and a table. I
we'd
don't
figure
know
that
that.
all out whenever, if we had to.
Yeah,
bring
yeah, yeah, right.
But,
Gotcha.
and we'd clean
But-
up afterwards and leave it just as it was and pay them whatever they want.
Right.
All right. I'll let you guys know what I find out.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So Kiernan and Kim will give us a report next week on the 12th. And Lori will give us hopefully a definitive answer about mail ballots.
Unlikely,
And, okay, so,
but she'll do the best she can.
yep.
I always
that's what
do.
I know.
So that was E, annual meeting warning, and F, location of annual meeting and polling station. Polling station, we didn't talk about that. But maybe we talk about that next week because you'll know more about what we have to do.
Right, we don't really have an answer for that yet, so.
Because if we're mailing out all ballots, then we probably will have to have a presence at the poll for people who do what they did in November, which is toss the ballot and then decide they have to want to vote.
Right, and Ray, that's what we did last year.
Yeah.
Pam and I stayed at the depot and I had to run over to the town of Bennington multiple times to bring ballots that had come in the mail or that we had, well, most of them came in the mail, but someone had to be in there. And it was just the two of us and very, very few people came in to drop off their ballots. So, yep.
Yep. I remember that. Okay, I think that's good for tonight. And I don't really have anything else to say. And
I'll make a move to adjourn.
no, we're not going to adjourn.
Oh, that's
We're going
right.
to continue.
Continue.
A continuation motion is what we need
Thank you.
to January 12th at 6:30, I guess.
All right. I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
All right. Good night. Thank you very much, Jim, for being here. Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.